Hello, I'm Cyril Martuel from Paris, and here's my little dinosaur. Hello! Hello!
Okay, Monolith is probably an important concept for people who have no knowledge of functional programming. But basically, when do you think they're important for people working in more imperative programming languages?
So the question, what are monoliths important for people from imperative or procedural programming? There are, because monoliths are a way to have some of the beauty and elegance from functional programming back into your Java or C# code or TypeScript code. So it's just for everyone, and it's very simple. So I'd like people to get away from this talk that monoliths are important, of course, but it's not their name that's important. It's all about the idea of composability, putting things together and composing them the way you like. Oh, fuck.
Just go from the. So
Bam!
you just hit the microphone. Just go from the beginning of the last sentence.
So yeah, I expect people take away from this talk that monoliths exist, they are important, but it's not about the name of monoliths, it's just about this idea of composability, putting things together and the way you like, and just small things that compose very easily and that you can compose a lot of options, basically. And he agrees.
So it's interesting how you mentioned things like Java. So in the future, where do you see functional languages such as, say, Haskell and Clojure? Do you feel they're becoming mainstream, such as, say, Java and C#?
Interesting. So will Java, like Clojure or Haskell, or will become mainstream in functional programming? That's okay. Nobody can say, but I have the feeling that they will not become mainstream, but the ideas will become mainstream. And if I look at Haskell from far away, obviously that's the future. But the future will probably not be Haskell itself. It will be all the ideas from Haskell in a way that we can live with every day. And so that's the mystery right now. But it's clearly the future. The progress in Java is backporting ideas from Haskell into a poorly done form, but it's still progress in the Java community, and that's the way the world works.
In the old days of software craftsmanship, talks were given about functional programming to people like Uncle Bob. What is your kind of appraisal of functional programming, particularly say like over the last decade?
So what is my assessment on functional programming over the last decade? It became mainstream already, kind of. So as everything becoming mainstream, it's also misunderstood a little bit. It's also misguided. We were expecting a large number of cores and large parallelism, and it doesn't happen the way we planned. But still, functional programming as ideas are progressing, and now they are basically kind of commonplace. So that's very good things. And I'm also very happy that these functional programming ideas help, or should help people, in fact, developers produce better object-oriented code as well. That was one of the points of my talk, is that FP does not replace objects, it supplements, and we need both together in the very same code. We need the constraints of both, actually, to echo one of the famous Uncle Bob talk, the last language. And so it's all about combining the constraints, and these constraints leads to a superior style of code, indeed, something that we can maintain, something that we can reason on. Good things, indeed. Yeah?
What does software craftsmanship mean to you both professionally and personally?
What does software craftsmanship means to me professionally and personally? A lot of good things, in fact. So I'm not that attached to the word in itself, but it represents, for me, it represented meeting a lot of fantastic people over time. And for my customers, what they call software craftsmanship for them is more like a call for more technical excellence in their industry, in their company, which is something that was totally neglected over the last decades. And now software craftsmanship actually is a call for everyone willing to pay attention to the quality of what we build, engineering techniques, and not just shipping random piles of crap. So that's one of the things. And of course, there are many definitions of software craftsmanship. Last night at the speaker dinner, there was a debate on that. What it is really, and everybody has a different definition, different answer, and I don't care. But it was useful in promoting ideas that agile is not enough. We need additional engineering techniques on top, and this was extremely important. And actually, this won. We succeeded in promoting these ideas. Software craftsmanship kind of succeeded, I think, in promoting these ideas. Next. When did you first come across?
Yeah, we can do that.
My first exposure to software craftsmanship, honestly, I don't remember. It was before 2011, and I really don't remember where it was from. It may well have been from Sandro Mancuso, in fact, and which was the reason I created the Paris Software Craftsmanship community in 2011 with Sandro as the guest speaker for the very first event, and he came and he kicked ass, basically. And so the meetup started in a very powerful way. Yeah.
So from your talk this morning, what is maybe the one thing that you hope people take away from your session?
What I expect people to take away from my session is composability, definitely the number one thing. And number two would be having a look at mathematics anyway, because it's a lot of established formalism, as we say, and we can borrow so much from that to create more rigorous, more solid software. So it's not about fetishism, it's just that mathematics have done a lot of work and we can just reuse that. So we can reuse frameworks, libraries, and we can reuse directly ideas from mathematics, just like we are reusing patterns from the books in our field. So yeah, mathematics is one of the industry we can just use. Your question on the future of software craftsmanship, no?
Yeah. You can get it on.
So what to expect from the software craftsmanship movement in 10 years time? Honestly, I don't care that much, because as I said, the software craftsmanship, the real need was a reaction to the state of agile like 10 years ago, and it worked for that. It was a reaction to change some mindset, and this mindset has changed. So I think it has done what it was meant to do. So it will get increasingly irrelevant. Pardon me, Sandro, on that, but as a movement, we should not get attached to things and names and movements. And you know, the new kids on the block, they will just come and find something new and replace all that, and we end up totally irrelevant. And it's not a problem at all. It's just the way the work evolves, and things die, things get born, new things arrive, and new things usually hate the former things. So basically, the next generation probably should hate software craftsmanship and create something in reaction to it. And I look forward to that, because that's the way progress looks like. So typically right now, microservices don't oppose software craftsmanship, but these are the same people, and sometimes there's the different people as well. Serverless, everything cloud now is getting mature. So these communities may embrace software craftsmanship, or they may not. So really, I don't mind. As long as we move forward as an industry, I'm okay. Yeah, I like the anecdote on the talk. What inspired me to give the talk?
Yeah.
So, where does this talk come from? This talk started actually in a bar, playing with glasses of beer in a bar to explain monos to a bunch of colleagues. And so that's why I love this talk. It's a very one-man show-ish, because actually it used to grow up like that at the very beginning, entertaining people in a bar. So that's for the anecdote. But I like the another question. Any project I'd like to share on? Yes, of course, I'd like to share about my books. No, sorry. Any project that I want people to know about? Yes, of course, I'd like to mention my book. So there was the online book on LeanPub, and now the book is gonna go out in print on Addison Wesley Professional, published by a real editor in print. So yeah, I'm very excited about this, and so prepare to hear about living documentation by Cyril Martraire at Easton Wesley Professional. All right, it was a very pleasure to answer your questions. Bye-bye.